morning, everyone, and welcome back to day 14 of learning. To begin our day, we're going to start with our sight words. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over our 6 sight words that we are going to be working with today, and some of them may be familiar to you. After that, we'll complete 2 of our problems on the whiteboard as a model, and then we will complete 2 problems on our worksheet before you complete the rest on your own. So let's first begin by saying and being introduced to our 6 sight words for the day. You can say them along with me or repeat back after me, starting with are, fly, one, some, then, and two. And two should be a sight word that you are familiar with since we've been practicing it when we've been at school, and it's also hung up on our word wall in our classroom. So what we're going to do first is there's 2 parts that are going to be on your worksheet. One part is you're going to read, trace, and write each of the sight words. And the other part is you're going to fill in a sentence using one of these sight words to complete the sentence. So let's start by doing this first. I have 3 categories here. Read, which means you're going to read the sight word. Trace, which means you're going to trace the sight word and saying each letter as you trace it. And then write the sight word, which means you're going to write the sight word on your own by saying each letter. So let's start with the first category, read. So I'm going to read the sight word, which is R. Now I'm going to trace the sight word R by saying each letter as I trace it. R, A, R, E. Now I'm going to write the sight word, and I'm going to write it on my own by saying each letter as I write it. I'm writing the sight word R. A, R, E. Now I'm going to fill in my sentence. And what I'm going to do is, while I'm filling in my sentence with the sight word, I'm going to make sure that my sentence sounds correctly and it makes sense. So remember, we're using one of these 6 sight words to fill in our sentence. So first I'm going to read the sentence as is, and then I'm going to start plugging in one sight word at a time until I come across the sight word that makes sense and it sounds correctly. Starting with the first sentence. We saw a big blank. I read the sentence as is. Hopefully you can see it. Now I'm going to fill in the sentence by using the sight words. We saw a big R. Well, that doesn't make sense and it doesn't sound correctly. So R isn't the sight word that's going to be in this fill-in. Now I'm going to move to my next sight word. We saw a big fly. That makes sense and it sounds correctly. So fly is the sight word that's going to go on the blank. And I'm going to write it F-L-Y. Fly. Now I'm going to cross off the sight word here because that indicates that I already used that sight word and I'm not going to be using it again. Now we're going to complete 2 problems on our worksheet together. So you're going to take out the worksheet that has your sight words on it, and the title is We Like to Go to the Beach. And that's going to be having it on one side, and then on the other side you're going to see the sight words in a word bank that's going to help you fill in the sentences. Okay? So I would like you to take out this worksheet from your packet, and you're also going to need a pencil. Remember, in your worksheet in your packet, the title is We Like to Go to the Beach, with a pencil also. I'll give you a few minutes to take that out. If you need a little bit of extra time gathering your materials, you can pause the video here and then press play when you're ready. So you want to make sure that we're going to start on the side that says we like to go to the beach, and you have your pencil. The first step is we're going to put our name at the top of our paper. Remember, your first and last name. Now, just like we did here, read, trace, and write, we're going to be doing that here. So our first column is read, which we read the sight word. Our second column is trace, as we trace each letter as we say it to write out the sight word. And then our third column is write, where we write the sight word on our own by saying each of the letters as we write it. So let's complete the first part together. Let's read the sight word. The sight word is R. Now, let's trace the sight word R by saying each of the letter as we trace it. A, R, E. And then our last step is we're going to write the sight word on our own by saying each letter as we write it. R is A, R, E. And you're going to complete this process on your own when you are ready to do it. So you're going to read each sight word, trace each sight word by saying each letter as you trace it, and then write each sight word on your own by saying each letter as you write it. Now let's complete one of our sentences on the back. So the directions here say choose the word to fit in the space in each sentence and write it in the space. Over here is our word bank. It has all of our 6 sight words that we're going to be practicing with today. So the first step is we're going to read the sentence as is. Then we're going to begin plugging in the sight words and seeing if that sight word that we plug in makes sense and if the sentence sounds correctly. So let's read the first sentence together. These blanks my books. So let's try 2. These 2 my books. The sentence doesn't make sense and it doesn't sound correctly. So 2 is not the sight word. Let's move on to the next sight word 1. Let's try to put 1 in the blank. These 1 my books. Still doesn't make sense and doesn't sound correctly. So 1 is not the sight word. Let's move to the sight word R. These are my books. Well, these are my books sounds correctly and makes sense. So R must be the sight word that we're going to fill in the blank with. So let's write R. A, R, E. And then we're going to cross off the sight word R to indicate that that sight word is already used and we can't use that sight word anymore. So these are my books. That is a complete sentence. So now it's going to be your turn to try the rest on your own. I'm going to go over the directions again. On the front, you're going to read each sight word in the column, trace each sight word as you say each letter as you trace it, and then write the sight word on your own and saying each letter as you write it. On the back, you're going to use one of the sight words in your word bank to complete each sentence. You're first going to read the read the sentence as is, plug in a sight word and see if that makes sense and sounds correctly. If it doesn't, you move on to another one. If that sight word that you use completes the sentence, which means that the sentence makes sense and it sounds correctly, you're going to write that sight word in the bank and then cross it off on the word bank to let you know that you're not going to be using that sight word because it's already been used. Once you're done with this, you're going to have your parents or an adult or an older sibling take a picture of this and send it to me so I can see your work. But before you guys go and try the rest on your own, let's first just repeat the 6 sight words that we learned today and that we're working with. You can say them with me or repeat back after me. R, fly, 1, some, then, and 2. After you're done with your sight word worksheet, it's then going to be time for reading. So I will see you all back in reading.